Have you ever stopped to think about why that person who does nothing right is in a leadership position? Why your boss seems lost all the time? Why the person who knows best how to do the job is at the bottom, while the person who understands the least climbs the organizational chart? Well, this is not a coincidence. It's not bad luck. It's not cosmic injustice. It's science. And it has a name, Peter's Principle. Get ready, because after this video, you'll look at your company with different eyes. In 1969, Canadian professor Lawrence J. Peter published a book that shook the corporate world. The title? The Peter Principle. And the thesis was simple, but devastating. In any hierarchy, every person tends to be promoted until they reach their level of incompetence. Let me explain better. Imagine the following. John is an excellent salesman. He hits all the targets. Clients love him. He's the man. What does the company do? It promotes him to sales manager. But being a great salesman doesn't mean being a great manager. They are completely different skills. John was good at selling, but not necessarily at leading, training, making spreadsheets, making strategic decisions. The result? John reaches a position where he is incompetent. And you know what happens? He stops climbing. He stagnates there. And the company? It's left with a mediocre manager and lost a phenomenal salesman. This happens at all levels. A person is good at something, gets promoted, until finally they reach a position where they can no longer deliver. And there they stay. Trapped. The company trapped. Everyone trapped. Peter called this the ultimate level of incompetence. And the worst part, this isn't the exception. It's the rule. Look around you. How many bosses do you know who were great at what they did before, but as leaders are a disaster? That's it. Peter's Principle in action. But wait, it gets worse. Because there's another psychological phenomenon that boosts the Peter Principle, the Dunning-Kruger effect. In 1999, two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, discovered something disturbing. Incompetent people can't recognize their own incompetence. Even worse, they tend to think they are more competent than they actually are. Meanwhile, truly competent people often underestimate their own abilities. It's the famous reverse imposter syndrome. The incompetent person thinks they're great. The competent person thinks they're not that good. Now put the two together. Peter Principle plus Dunning-Kruger. What do you have? A perfect scenario for promoting incompetent people. The incompetent person has exaggerated confidence, sell themselves well, seems to know what they're doing. Managers look and think, wow, this guy's attitude, he's sure of what he's saying, let's promote him. Meanwhile, the truly competent employee, aware of their limitations, remains quiet in the corner, doubting themselves. The result? The confident incompetent rises. The humble competent stays. And when this confident incompetent becomes the boss, they make bad decisions thinking they're great. They don't listen to feedback because they think they are always right. And they create a culture where other confident incompetents are also promoted. It's a vicious cycle, a downward spiral of institutionalized incompetence. You might be thinking, oh, but that's just theory, right? Wrong. There's a lot of scientific research proving all of this. A 2018 study published in the journal Personal Psychology analyzed more than 200 companies and confirmed the correlation between performance in a job and performance in a superior job is very low. In other words, being good at what you do doesn't mean you'll be good at managing those who do what you did. Another devastating study. Researchers from the Harvard Business Review analyzed 214 high-level executives. They found that 37% of them had at least one critical leadership deficiency, more than a third. And you know what else? These incompetent executives caused, on average, a 7% loss of productivity in their teams. 7% may seem small, but multiply that by hundreds of employees over years, that's billions in destroyed value. And there's more. A study from Stanford University found that bad hires for leadership positions cost, on average, 15 times that person's annual salary. 15 times. Because incompetence in high-level positions doesn't just affect that person. It contaminates the entire organization. Bad decisions are made. Flawed strategies are implemented. Genuine talent leaves the company. The culture rots from the top down. So no, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a proven, replicated, measurable fact. Companies are systematically promoting the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Let me tell you a real case that perfectly illustrates all of this. In 2015, Volkswagen, one of the world's largest automakers, was caught in a gigantic scandal, Dieselgate. They installed software in 11 million vehicles to cheat emissions tests. The cost? More than $30 billion in fines, recalls, and compensation. But how did this happen? Subsequent investigations revealed a toxic corporate culture where incompetent managers created an environment of fear. Engineers who raised concerns were ignored or punished. Impossible goals were imposed without resources. And leaders who didn't understand the technical challenges pushed for solutions that violated ethics and the law. This is the real result of incompetence in leadership positions. It's not just numbers on a spreadsheet. It's billions lost, reputations destroyed, thousands of jobs affected, and all because the right people weren't in the right places. Another example, the fall of Nokia, a company that dominated the mobile phone market for years. What happened? Leadership unable to see the smartphone revolution coming. Managers stuck in outdated mental models. Refusal to listen to engineers who warned about the threat of the iPhone. The result? From absolute leader to near extinction in less than 5 years. Incompetence at the top doesn't just kill individual careers. It kills entire companies. It affects economies. It destroys decades of legacies. Okay, so far it's been depressing. But what now? What do you do if you're stuck working for an incompetent boss? First thing, document everything. Emails, decisions, important conversations. When the incompetence explodes, and it will explode, you need to have your protection. Second, manage upwards. Learn to translate your work in a way that even your incompetent boss understands its value. Unfortunately, you'll need to do part of their job of making you shine. Third, build a network. Relationships with other departments, with your boss's superiors, with colleagues. When your manager's incompetence becomes obvious, you'll want other people to know your real work. Fourth, set boundaries. Incompetent bosses often delegate poorly, create false emergencies, and take credit for your work. Learn to say no professionally. Document your priorities. Don't play into someone else's incompetence game. Fifth, keep your skills sharp. Work on side projects, take courses, build a portfolio. Because in an environment with incompetent leadership, you won't grow organically. You need to create your own opportunities. And sixth, most importantly, know when it's time to leave. There's a difference between persisting in a challenge and wasting precious years of your career in a toxic environment. If the incompetence comes from the top and is institutionalized, no amount of individual effort will fix it. Sometimes, the smartest move is to recognize a lost game and look for a better board. Now, an important disclaimer. Not every difficult boss is incompetent. Sometimes a person is going through personal difficulties. Sometimes you're the one who's wrong in the situation. Sometimes it's simply a clash of personalities. Not everything is the Peter Principle. But if you identify a systematic pattern, your boss consistently makes bad decisions, doesn't understand the team's work, was promoted beyond their capacity, creates problems instead of solving them, then yes, you're probably seeing the Peter Principle in action. And now that you know this, you can no longer ignore it. The question isn't if you'll encounter incompetent leadership in your career. It's when and how you'll deal with it. Because ultimately, the Peter Principle isn't an excuse for mediocrity. It's a warning. For companies, stop promoting people just because they're good in their current role. Assess whether they have the skills for the next role. For you, don't accept a promotion just because it's a promotion. Ask yourself if you truly want and are capable of doing a new job. And for all of us, let's recognize that climbing the corporate ladder isn't the only path to success. Sometimes, being excellent at what you do at your current level is more valuable than being mediocre in a higher position. The Peter Principle taught us this over 50 years ago. Perhaps it's time we finally learned the lesson. If this video made you rethink your career, your company, or that exceptional boss you have, leave a like. If you know someone who needs to watch this, whether because they are a victim of the Peter Principle or because they are the Peter Principle, share it. And tell me in the comments, what was the worst experience you've ever had with incompetent leadership? Let's make a compilation of corporate horrors. Until the next video, and remember, not every promotion is a blessing. Sometimes it's the beginning of your incompetence.